Hello, this story takes place in Aesir's hall, where there's a cauldron borrowed from Hydramar that is a mile in diameter, where there can be enough ale brewed to fill the Aesir and the Vanir and those from Alfheim and any of the other realms who've been invited. Outside the hall, though, stands Loki in the cold. Well, it's his own fault. He got bad drunk. He wasn't the centre of attention, so he killed someone. So he had to leave. Not good. But you can't keep Loki out for long. Sooner or later, he wings his way in. And when he walked in, Bragi, the god of poetry, was in the middle of telling a story and said, "Loki, there's no place for you here. Your words have turned sour, and you now just bring mischief and harm everywhere you go." Loki looked hurt and aggrieved. "Odin, this is not the way that it was when the world was young, where we mingled our blood and vowed that whenever ale was opened, we would share passion and cunning. Together we could do anything." And Odin sighed. And he looked over at Vidar, his son, and said, "Vengeance can wait. Make space on the bench. Loki can sit, for it's true. We said we would drink together." And Loki walked in, raised a horn, and said, "I drink to all of you in the hall, all of you, except that coward Bragi." And then he sat down. Bragi. He stood up. But instead of calling out for a home gang and taking on Loki face to face, he decided this was a time for a feast and he would try and appease Loki. "Loki, I will give you a horse, a sword, and a ring. Just keep the peace." Scoffed Loki. "A horse, a sword, and a ring? Where are you going to get them from? Those are warriors' gifts to give. But no, you are a bench warrior, a wielder of words and not of actions." Before anything else could get worse, Idun stepped in and said, Loki, calm down. Here, have a drink, sit and make merry with the others in the hall." Loki looked at her. "Idun, you would marry the one who killed your brother. No, there is no honor from you." Odin turned to Loki and said, Loki, calm down. Hold your peace. We are all friends here in this hall. We need to have justice and peace. "Justice and peace," said Loki. "You're Odin, aren't you? You are Odin, the one who lets the brave die in battle so you can feast them in your hall of spears and swords. You are fickle. You stole the mead of poetry and left its guardian Gunnlod crying. You are not just." Odin, aggrieved, turned and quickly said, "Well, there are things I've done, true, but at least I've not been a mare in milk." That would have been the end of it. Except, well, Loki, getting a little more agitated, said, "Yes, well, I may have given birth, but you walk Midgard in the guise of a witch. You give birth to war. You give birth to trouble and calamity. You are not the wise all-father you claim to be." Frigg, standing again, said, Loki, calm down. You are mad with drink. Some stories should not be told. They should be kept in silence and not made public. "Right you are," said Loki. "At your wished, woman. You may be Odin's wife, but what about Vili and Bay? What about his brothers? Aren't you their wives as well? At that point, Frigg said, you are mad, Loki. If my son Balder was here, he would show you what's what. He'd turf you out the hall, quick as a flash. At which Loki laughed one of his least appealing laughs, and the stitch holes in his mouth were visible. And he said, ah, yes, Balder. Hod may be blind, but I saw what happened. You threatened me with Balder? I've already dealt with him. He's gone and bound in the land of hell till Ragnarok. Freya stood up and said, Loki, Loki, don't talk that way. Frigg knows your fate. Do not taunt her. Loki, standing again, said, Hod your wished, woman. You flap like the north wind. The only thing that opens wider than your mouth is the door to your chambers. There's been much traffic that way. At this, Njord couldn't take any more. He stood up. Loki, women have lords, they have lovers, some have both. But at least they are not mothers of a horse. Hodjar wished Loki. Loki stood up. Njord, welcoming Njord. You are so open and friendly that when you were a hostage, you, Mr. Njord C, well, your mouth became a recipient for a sewer. And we all know what goes in a sewer. Besides, you've had a son with your sister. At which Tyr stood up, the great warrior, the brave warrior, and said, Hodjar wished, Loki. You are mad with mead. This is the drink speaking. Freyr is a good friend. He is fierce to all those who deserve it. He will show no harm to those who don't. Ah, Tyr, replied Loki. Tyr, you talk of friendship. You can't do friendship. You can't negotiate. You can't even hold two things at the same time. You talk about juggling complicated relationships. Try juggling. Na, 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 na. Tyr looked at him and said, aye, Wolf's father, I may not have two hands anymore. One of my arms may have been mauled by your son, but your son is bound. Bound till Ragnarok, bound on the rocks. Watch your words. Do not end up with the same fate. Loki said, yeah, okay. One of my sons is bound. But I have another with your wife. Freyr stood this time and said, Loki, watch what you say, or you'll get what's coming to you. I wish Loki, running out of witty riposts, started arguing with the servants, started causing havoc everywhere, until Skadi stood up, and the ice in her stare chilled the room. She gazed at Loki. Loki, I will speak your fate. You will be bound. You will be bound on the rocks with the guts of your own children, tied there till Ragnarok, to the world's end. And I have snakes that I have been training just to drip venom onto you until the world ends. Loki, once again, responded with anger. Skadi, I was there at the start of the story that was the ending of your father, and I was the ending of that story. I will take all challengers. I will take anything that's coming. The storm clouds rumbled. There was a hammering in the mountains, a pounding of feet. And maybe that's what brought to mind Loki's next tirade, his war of words. Ha! You're waiting for Thor, right? Thor, the one who keeps losing his hammer, and the defender of men, but not the guardian of wit. The one who always needs me to help him on his adventures. Where would he have been in the land of the Jotun if I wasn't there to be his maidservant? Where would he be to show him how to wear a frock? He can't even get dressed himself. He then stopped. Thor, he's standing behind me, isn't he? At that, Loki decided that discretion was the better part of valor and left, fast as a falcon, out the door to the falls of Franang, where he could hide and wait his fate and hope to dodge it. But that is another story.